Think homestaging is just fluff and throw pillows? Let's talk facts before you leave tens of thousands on the table. Today we're visiting with Roku with STS Homestaging in Denver Highlands. Thanks for being here, Roku.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's kick it off by just having you talk a little bit about what is homestaging and what is this service that you're providing to sellers?
Sure. So, home staging is a service for when you're selling your home. We can come in and help you arrange your belongings, understand buyer psychology in order to prep your home. There are other things your realtor will probably advise you to do if necessary, like paint or repairs, but we're the final touch. We're there to help you create a connection with buyers who come through to get great offers quickly, great selling price. And that ranges from helping you arrange your own items. And also, if you're moving out and your home is vacant, it goes all the way up to fully furnishing the proper spaces in your home so that it has that model home feel. And it's a great marketing tool, and it makes your home very competitive on the market.
It really does. And, once a home is staged, it looks so different than the way that it was when you lived there. And so we're always telling our sellers, like, once you decide to sell the home, it's not yours anymore. And so, we don't care what you like or what colors you like or what you think looks good where. We're wanting to defer to the professionals to tell us, what do the buyers want to see? Because that's the important thing. Once you decide to sell, is how do you make that house look amazing to the most number of buyers? We want our buyer pool to be as big as possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
You want mass appeal to the most buyers will come in, you can make some kind of connection with.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's jump into these questions because I know I have a few questions for you.
Yeah.
So the first one is, staging costs money. Sellers have to pay for it. And so, a lot of times sellers will sort of decline it just because they don't want that expense.
Right.
But talk to us a little bit about, why is staging worth the money that it costs to do it?
The TLDR is that you're going to get more than your money's worth back. You're selling a large asset, so you put a little bit into it. It's the same kind of concept as the repairs. If there's a broken cabinet in the kitchen, you're going to fix that too. It costs a little bit of money. All of that adds up to an investment in selling your home, and you want to get at least that and more, and likely more, back out of that investment on top of the value of your home. So the home's first showing is online. It's those photographs that we post on, Zillow and the like, and the MLS. And most buyers start shopping online. So that's their first introduction. And you need it to look competitive and inviting.
Like a magazine.
Like a magazine, as close as possible. To draw them in, get yourself on the short list to have showings scheduled. And the more showings, the better. Obviously, you tend to get, the more showings you get, more interest you get, the quicker you get offers. And there's a statistic that's backed up by several organizations that that homes that are staged sell 73% faster than homes that are not staged. And that comes from multiple sources. And it's because they have much more traction. So you're more competitive, you get multiple offers, they're competing then, so fewer concessions, and the ROI is just solid.
Anecdotally, I believe that's absolutely true because, working on the listing side as a listing agent, we'll have homes, and I know if I put that home on the market and it looks as good as the seller can make it look, right? Like they've done their best to make their home look great. But that still, it just never competes with the way that the home looks when it's been professionally staged. It's almost a night and day difference.
Yeah. And it's because we live in our homes. No one lives in a model home. It never stays looking like that.
Yeah.
But because we have things like HGTV and model homes, all of us have this, even if we're quite aware of it, like I am. I'm still subject to those beautiful, inviting spaces I see on the great reveals on these TV shows and model homes and such. So it becomes your expectation. And so what we do is we come in as the experts to know how to bridge that gap. You're like, we're going to take your home from lived in and your home to whoever walks in here could see it as their home.
And so as a listing agent, one of the things that I'm doing with those pictures is, as you said, they're going on the MLS, and I'm trying to get as many showings in the door as possible, especially in the first weekend, the first week. Because we know that homes that are priced appropriately and show really well, those homes are still moving quickly and still getting multiple offers in some cases, which drives up the price. Now, the other side of that is to have a home that's not showing as well, maybe doesn't show up as well in pictures or at showings, and then it's sitting on the market longer. Now, once it's been on the market for a while and we start talking about price reductions, I thought this was interesting, and I don't know that it's an actual statistic, but this idea that now when we have to start doing price reductions, the amount that I, as a listing agent, am going to recommend to you to reduce your price, yeah, that amount right there is going to be larger than whatever the home staging cost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, a single price reduction, it hits way harder than proper staging up front. Yeah, I'm out of the gate strong. Not to mention the extra amount of time you're paying that mortgage while it's sitting on the market.
The
And
carrying costs, we all know this from HGTV
yes,
and the fix and flip shows.
yes, yeah,
Carrying.
that adds up also to far more than the staging would have cost if you've just gone that high level route to begin with.
Well, something that you mentioned earlier was about psychology of buyers. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So it's a great chance to mention a service that we offer. It's called a pre-listing consultation. We'll come to a home where the sellers are staying in their home while it's for sale. So we won't be bringing in all the furniture and making it look like a model home. We're using what they have to make it put its best foot forward.
Oh, this is interesting for me because I knew that you brought furniture in, but I didn't. And I know there's two types of stagers. There's the ones who use the seller's furniture, and there's the ones who bring in all the furniture and decor. And I didn't realize that you were doing both because often stagers only do one or the other.
It's true, and some do both.
Yeah.
So we operate in a little bit of a unique way. We do these pre-listing consultations, but we don't bring additional pieces. If they need a chair, we make it work without having to bring those. And we stage vacant homes. Part of our business model makes it that way because all of our furnishings are new and available for purchase by the buyers or anyone who's coming through, even if they don't buy the home. And that means we don't put something in someone's home that's going to live there because we can't then in good conscience sell it as new. So it's separate services for us completely. And we've never had a problem. We've always been able to make beautiful flow and work out of whatever they have for us to work with. So we come in and advise sellers, and it really breaks down to packing early is the biggest thing that you can do to benefit your sale. Pack everything off season and everything that you only get out once in a while. Thin down your closet. You're not going to be there very long. That's the whole point, right? You're going to have to pack anyway. Might as well do it ahead of time, get some ROI on that, and kind of get paid for your time to pack. So the buyer psychology, going back to your actual question, has to do with them being able to see themselves in the home. If they see too much of someone else, they're going to feel awkward when they walk into your bedroom. Be like, oh, I'm in someone's room. We want to eliminate that distraction because we want them thinking about living there. And so these distractions include things like personal items, pictures of your cute little kiddos. Like they're not their cute little kiddos. So we want them to not look at those things. We don't want them to admire your trophies because then they're not looking at the house. It goes back also to our expectation that social media and TV shows and model homes give us is that things are very clean lined. There's fewer items in a room than you actually live with. So it's just meeting that expectation someone has, which feels good to us. Even if we're aware of it, it still makes our brain feel good when it looks like we thought it would.
Yeah. And, I work on both sides. So I'm a listing agent and a buyer's agent. And I know that when I bring buyers through properties, it is very distracting for, family photos, just real personalized things. We were at a property a couple of weeks ago where, what was that sign they had on the fence? It said something like, we follow the F around F around and find out rule here or something like that. And there was a lot of gun stuff.
Oh.
And so, it's their home. Like, they want their home to feel homey, and that's what they're into, which is fine.
Yeah.
But when I'm bringing buyers through, it just becomes distracting.
Mm-hmm.
And now some of these personal items become a topic of conversation
Yes.
for us at the showing instead of being able to really focus the conversation on the property.
Yes.
What do you like about this home? What do you not like about this home? Now we're talking about this guy's gun collection, you know?
Yeah. Exactly. And not everyone is a gun enthusiast. So there are polarizing topics like that. Not everyone's into Star Wars enough to paint the walls with a mural. So there's nothing wrong with any of that. It just narrows your buyer's pool.
Oh my gosh, talking about buyer psychology, I have the perfect story for this. So, this is not my story, but it's such a great story. So, this couple is walking through a home, they're buying, they're shopping, they're looking at this home, and all indications and the magic 8 ball point to yes. Like, this is going to be the perfect home for them. It meets all their criteria, they're loving it, they're loving it. They get to the primary bedroom and the sellers have a picture of the wife, a very racy picture of the wife over the bed.
Really?
And the wife, the buyer wife, goes, "Let's go. This isn't it. We're not buying this one."
Oh.
And the agent was like, "Oh, what? This one was perfect. Like, obviously, you can take the picture down. Like, the picture's not staying with the house of this, this other naked wife. And the wife just goes, "Absolutely not. I know that every time my husband walks into this bedroom, he's going to be thinking about that picture
He's
on
seen
the
it.
wall."
Can't unsee it.
And that is a buyer.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's a
That's
buyer
so
psychology.
scary. It so is. Yeah. And moments, that's legitimate. If she has that fear, she doesn't want to live there.
Mhm.
And so let's prevent that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where we can advise those things you may not think of. That I feel like you should think of. That's a great example. But there's so many things that you don't think of. And I've even told my own team, if I sell my home, like, I'm not staging it. You're staging it for me
Smart.
because you're too close to it. Even my own home and being an expert in this field, I would need help to see past the things that are just there. They've always been here. I use that. And they can advise, on here's why it's going to help your sale to do this with it. And I would even need to hear that. But that's what we do for people. We come and help them shift their mindset and teach them the principles, the why behind what we're advising that they do.
You know what we haven't touched on that also falls under this buyer psychology thing is how when you have a professional stager coming in and bringing furniture in or recommending which pieces need to be moved out when you're working with the seller's own stuff, um, part of what you're doing is making the space feel bigger.
Yes, we make it feel bigger. We identify its identity. We give it an identity, especially spaces that are sort of this odd space next to a room that's clearly defined. We give it a purpose. And we make sure that if that's someone's home and we're not staging it, we make sure that what they're using it for would make sense to most people and how to modify it if it's not. And if they have a space where multiple things are happening, it's an office, it's the nursery, it's the gym, all in one space, we help them understand how we choose one and why we choose one. So buyers don't look at that and feel, well, there's no space in here. I need an extra room because I need a nursery and I need an office. Well, this place isn't big enough. But maybe it is if we're just smarter about how we define our spaces.
Yes, and because it's funny because I know that I have a room like that. It's like it's part office, it's part guest room, and it's part storage, honestly, and it feels crowded in there a lot of the time.
Which is okay to live with because you use the space for different things.
Right.
But it's not going to help sell a home.
No, not at all. Okay, what next? Talk about what happens when a home is not staged at all and we're just leaving the sellers to their own devices.
Yeah, it's those photos online you just get passed by. We all search for homes online, even for fun sometimes. And realtors are subject to this psychology as well, that you want to present the best listings to your buyers. So you're more likely to present the ones that have that pop and that professionalism, those bright photos, the clean lines. So the ones that aren't staged are either vacant and it's just flat color and lines, and you can't get an idea of the size of the space from the photos. There's just nothing intriguing. It's easy to just pass. And the other end of the spectrum is a seller who hasn't prepared their home. There are just too many items in the picture. It's kind of one of those like, see if you can find all of this list of things in this photo because it's all in there. It's just not going to make you stop and play that game. They're just too easy to pass by. The next step after the online and the photos of actually catching interest, when someone visits the home, they feel like they're visiting someone's home as opposed to seeing a home they might choose to live in. And as you mentioned, the conversation is in the wrong place.
It feels more like, yeah, like you're going to visit somebody else's house than you are shopping a product.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
that's what it is, really. I mean, you're shopping for something that you're about to buy. So you're shopping a product. So you don't really want to feel like you're walking into somebody else's home because it does have this feeling of like, of you're in somebody else's space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might not run your hand along the counter in someone else's house, but you would in a home you're considering being in and living in, having your life in there. So we want to create a space where they feel like they can touch it. They can interact with the space. They can walk into the closet and picture it and look at the space instead of peek in the closet because it's full and they're like, okay, I get the idea. There's a closet there. Yeah. Oh, you want them to feel that. We want a connection. We want them feeling things. We want them talking about, oh, that would be Jack's room and that would be Jill's room. Assigning rooms even is something that won't happen if they see that it's Mark's room and it's Sandra's room.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. Let's see. We've already kind of talked about. Oh, I know. I was going to go back to this idea of vacant homes. Because on my side, one of the other options that we can do if a seller does not want to pay for staging, because people just really, sellers just kind of balk at that sometimes. However, I'll tell people we can do some virtual staging for the photos, which is fine. It's obviously a lesser option than having it staged. So it does help with the photos online and getting people in the door.
Yeah.
But once the buyers are in the door, now they are in the home, looking around, trying to see if, they could see themselves living there. And again, it's just so much easier for them to do that when it's staged versus when it is just completely vacant.
You introduce a letdown when they first walk in the door in that scenario. My first issue I take with virtual staging is that the scale is not always right. It's AI, or it's someone you're paying way too much money to do by hand. And the scale, I can tell just by looking at them because this is what I do when the scale's wrong and it just kind of hurts me. It's false advertising.
I saw one the other day. They had this loft and the virtual staging had like 2 twin beds and a bunch of some other furniture and stuff. They kind of set it up like a kid's room almost. And I just took one look at that and I thought, there's no way that loft is that big.
So that's part of the issue is it misrepresents the property. So when they get there, not only do they not have a feeling when they walk in the door, they actually have a little bit of a letdown because in their mind, all they knew of this property had pretty stuff in it. So there's an initial, you're not off on a great start. And then as they walk through, it may feel very different. They may have loved the idea of that loft you mentioned. They get there and they're like, there's no way. So now you're again moving them out the door.
I saw another loft not too long ago where they had set up like a little yoga area. So they had like a yoga mat and some stuff sitting there to kind of like stage it. But as I looked at it, the roof line is like this. And I just thought, there's no way. There's no way that you could stand up and do one of these in that space because I can tell from the way the roof is, like you'd be hunched over
Like for dogs only. Your limited yoga, your low ceiling yoga.
Yeah, low ceiling yoga.
Someone to start that class.
Let's talk about, does staging matter more or less in certain markets or certain price points?
No, it matters in all of them. One of the biggest questions that I get, and I fully understand, is why would I stage when it's a seller's market? Well, it's a seller's market, you still want to get the highest amount. When it's a seller's market, buyers are having a harder time getting a house. So you want to be that one they covet, the one they're willing to do more for. They're willing to extend to the maximum that they can.
They're willing to forego inspection objections. They're willing to pay extra money over what the appraiser says it's worth. They're willing to cut deadlines out of the contracts. I know all these things.
Yeah. So that's the reason. You still need to be competitive in a seller's market, just like a buyer's market. And in a buyer's market, people have less questions about that. It's you need to stand out. You need to attract those offers, the few that there are. You want to nail them down. You want them to be stronger offers in both kinds of markets. The higher end properties, it's actually really crucial to stage because people who are spending more on this asset in their home expect more. The expectation is just on a different level if the cost is on a different level. So you want to meet them where they are, and they probably have the ability to furnish it nicely. So you want them to be able to visualize living there by furnishing it nicely.
Absolutely. In that luxury market, people, $1 million is no small amount. 500 grand is no small amount.
It's all relative.
Either way, these people are about to come in and spend more money than they probably spend on anything else in life. Usually, there are some clients, some buyers that, maybe they have multiple properties and multiple assets and all this stuff, right? But that's not the majority. The majority of people are about to lay down more money than they spend on anything else in this property, whether it's 500, a million, $1.5 million, and they want to feel like not only can they live there, but that it's going to be functional, and that their financial asset that they're about to invest in is going to be a good asset for them.
The smaller homes where staging is crucial, in smaller homes, staging defines the spaces and helps them understand how they would use it. Sometimes the spaces are fine and they just need to know, because majority of people, they're like, I can't picture it. I go in there, I'm like, okay, I see this is supposed to be the living room, but I don't know where I'm going to put the couch. So you help them do that. You help them feel more comfortable with the investment they're about to make, to your point. And the smaller spaces are either defined and we need to help them figure out that this is worth the investment you're about to make, or they're awkward or a little small in reality. And we're there to show them that it's still just fine. Everything's fine. Your sofa will fit. See? Sofa right here. And you'll put this here and you'll put that there, and it still feels good. So it gives them that confidence that despite maybe less square footage, they're still investing in something they want.
So which homes do you think, I know we've said all homes, but are there any in particular that you absolutely need to stage this type of home?
I don't know if it would be a type of home, but fully vacant is the one that's most in need.
The vacant homes, they need the most help because it's like the buyers can go in and see that the seller has all the stuff there. They know what kind of stuff will fit in there.
They are getting an example of layout.
Yes, there is an example, but in the vacant home, there is just no example.
In fact, being in an empty space sort of saps you of that energy sometimes. You're like, oh gosh, it's too much. It's a whole empty house. Where do I even begin? I'm not going to go there.
So let's talk about some data a little bit because, it's one thing for us to sit here and say, staged homes sell more quickly. Staged homes sell for more money. And I believe those two things to be true, but I think that there also is some data that we can kind of lean back on that tells us that that is true more than just anecdotal.
Yeah. The main data sources are National Association of Realtors, NAR, and then the Real Estate Stagers Association, so RESA. And then there's the Homestaging Institute and a couple others that compile this data, sometimes quarterly, sometimes annually. And that's where we get our information to show the actual impact this is having out in the market. So I mentioned a stat earlier that 73% faster. We're seeing homes sell 73% faster when they're staged as opposed to not.
That's a lot.
And then that speed translates to money in the fact that you're not paying mortgage for longer and you're getting stronger offers right out of the gate.
Well, and that speed means that we're not going to have to do a price reduction, which that is where, that's where a big chunk of money comes on.
And that feeds into the statistics about it selling for more money. You're not going to get lower ball offers. They're going to come in stronger because they're competing for your home.
When a buyer sees a home online and it's staged versus not staged, how much more likely are the buyers to go see the staged home versus the one that's not?
There is data to support that that's the case. About half of realtors surveyed say that that is definitely the case. And then it's just a matter of how many showings are you getting? That's where the literal data comes into play. And the ROI on staging varies by different surveys, but I've seen it only as low as 5% and I've seen it as high as 15%, which means for every dollar you spend on staging, you're going to get $5 to $15 back.
Thanks for doing the math on that.
Yeah.
That's good math.
Yeah.
Okay, so for every dollar you spend on staging, you could expect $5 to $15 back on that investment.
Okay. And that's a pretty wide range, I think, because it doesn't narrow it down to like price point markets. So at worst case, 5 times your investment, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good ROI. So, Roku, fact or fiction? Staging isn't really a big deal when you sell your home.
Fiction. It's a very big deal. It will put money in your pocket if you invest in staging. So if you're thinking of selling your home, we would love to be a partner with you and help you stage it to put its best foot forward. So STS Homestaging Denver Highlands is here for you. Just give us a call.
Oh, that was fantastic. Thanks so much for being here today, Roku. You have such a lot of great information to share about staging, and it's just something that not everybody is super familiar with. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Of course. If you like this content and want to support the channel, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go.